everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the 6 most common resume or CV mistakes that I see come across my desk as an interview strategist for nurses and NPs. I also see this in real life. What I see in my side gig, I tend to see reflected in real life. The place where I work as an NP, we tend to interview a lot. I see wide variability in what people choose to put on paper to represent themselves. Find it very interesting. I see a very common theme develop of the same kind of errors being presented over and over and over. So if you're in a season of job application, you're sending your resume out into the abyss and not hearing anything back, one of these 6 things just might be the problem. So if that's you, this is the video for you. If we haven't met yet, my name is Bree. I'm an RN, NP, mentor, interview strategist, and content creator. Welcome to the channel. The first most common mistake I see is it's sort of an indirect measurement, and this is not understanding what the applicant tracking system is, or the ATS, as I will refer to it in this video. You have to have an understanding of what this is and what it does in order to kind of crack the code, in order to get past it, in order to have your resume seen. And I think that many people out there in the world have no idea what it is. And you can tell, I can tell backing into things, looking at a resume, that an applicant either doesn't know that it exists or doesn't know how to bypass it the correct way. And that is why they're not putting the right stuff on their resume. So the first mistake we're going to talk about is sort of a broad generalization of understanding. And everything else we talk about is really going to come back to this. So let's talk about the ATS. What is it? Okay, this is an AI technology that is developed in order to help employers look at resumes and or CVs and weed them out. Okay, this is a method that will allow them to screen resumes to make sure that they are the right fit and or eliminate those who are not the right fit. It's also going to seek out certain buzzwords to highlight who might be the best, most optimal fit for you. So we are in a new world, y'all. I'm an old school girl, but this is a new world for us. We are allowing computers and artificial intelligence to do a lot of our work and automate it for us. And particularly if you're a large organization and you're getting 100 applications for one NP job, it's better to have a machine help you sort through and filter that down to a list of most appropriate candidates first, right? So most all organizations, particularly large ones, utilize this technology. So not only does this kind of weed out, sort out, eliminate, pick the best fit, it also is going to track your application throughout the process of applying. So it's going to follow you as a candidate throughout the interview process, throughout the hiring process. So it just makes work easier for the employer or the HR department. An example of how the ATS used is this. It's to look at the job title for which you are applying. Say you are applying for an RN job. If nothing in your application, if nothing in your resume says RN, it's going to weed you out, right? You have to have registered nurse somewhere in there, particularly at the top, especially at the title, like the very top of your resume should say RN somewhere. Then it's going to look at how many times that keyword is used throughout your resume and or how many specific job titles like deliverable skill sets that you would use as an RN that are in that resume to kind of flag you as a good fit. So you want to make sure that the buzzwords, like the highlights that you're listing under your previous work experience, your clinical rotations, your education, highlight the skills that a registered nurse would use. Now, hiring departments have the ability to filter this down. So as you progress, as you narrow down your focus, as you advance your career, when I'm talking to NPs, I'm talking about very narrow niches. So not only are you an RN, you're an advanced RN, and beyond that, you're looking at a specialty with a degree. And beyond that, you're looking at a subspecialty. So you may be an orthopedic surgery nurse practitioner, right? Very different skill set required for that job as would be, say, required for like a palliative care team or an ICU team or a hospitalist. So you want to make sure that the words that you're using in your interview match that job that you're applying for. And we're going to talk about this in more detail a little bit later as one of the other most common errors. But this is an example of how the ATS can be customized to suit this particular job. So if your CV or resume doesn't match up with what they have said they're looking for, you're going to be weeded out. So this explains how you may be sending out resumes to a ton of jobs that you are perfect for, but you never even receive a call back. This could be one of the reasons. Let me give just one little side note in regards to job title. Okay, this is a question that I get a little bit, often enough that we should address. And this would be like the person who has no experience in the field for which they are looking to get a job. So if you are a new grad NP, sometimes NPs struggle with, particularly if they haven't graduated school yet. Can I actually call myself a nurse practitioner? Or should I put at the top of my resume, registered nurse, future nurse practitioner, or something like that if I'm applying for a nurse practitioner job? Here's what you need to do. You need to put, you don't want to falsify. Somebody said, well, I'm falsifying information if I say at the top that I'm a nurse practitioner. No, because you're not going to say you're a nurse practitioner. You're going to further qualify that by saying you are nurse practitioner elect or nurse practitioner student or NP-S. So that lets me know that you are an up and coming new grad, but this is the field for which you are looking to enter, and that is what you are in school for currently. That is perfectly acceptable, and that is actually the way I would advise you to do it. The second most common mistake that I see is length, okay? And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that I'm going to say, oh my gosh, this resume is too long, I'm not going to read it. Actually, what I see in the real world is too short. And that is because you, like myself, when I graduated, heard the same story, and that is keep it at 1 page or 2 pages at most. Keep it as short as possible. And the problem with that is it can leave off really relevant information, which we'll get to in just a minute. So this boils down to, do you need a resume or do you need a CV? Now, a resume in general, most of the ones I see that are good are between 2 and 3 pages long. 1 page, you just can't get it all in 1 page. If you can, more power to you, do it. Just make sure you're including the right stuff and not excluding the right stuff, right? Including the right stuff, excluding the wrong stuff. That's what I mean to say. If you need to do a CV, now I've only had one NP send me a curriculum vitae and it was appropriate for her, and I advised her to continue that. Let's talk for a minute about the difference between a CV and a resume. CV is designed for someone who needs to demonstrate real world examples to demonstrate their work, to illustrate the examples of their work that they've done. So people like artists, people like researchers, scientists, people in the world of academia, physicians who, when physicians apply, they need to show all of the research that they've been involved in, the scientific articles that they've written, and that takes up space. So you can't limit that to a resume. So that's going to be like a 8, 9, 10 page CV. This person who did the CV was applying to work as a nurse practitioner, but had previously worked in the world of academia and had lots of great examples of leadership, research that she had been involved in. So for her, that was very appropriate. Even though I would argue that the job that she's applying for is a clinical job, which most of us are. Most of you here are RNs, future RNs, NPs, future NPs. Those are clinical jobs for the most part, unless you are applying for an admin type of job, a quality type of job, a research kind of job, in which case, yes, a CV might be appropriate for you. Most of you guys, though, are going into clinical jobs. I want to know as an employer, how quickly can you see people? How efficient are you? What is your clinical acumen? What are your skills? I really don't care so much that you've written 5 articles, unless, again, you're going to work for someone where you're doing scientific work or you're writing articles, okay? If you're coming to work as an NP in an office, I need to know how quickly you can work. And what's going to tell me that is going to be more of your work experience than examples of your work experience. You're going to tell me examples of your work experience when I ask you questions in the interview. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the difference between a CV and a resume. And the first error that I see is that people try and squeeze too much in. They eliminate the right things and they include the wrong things, which are going to be problems number 3 and 4.
Hey friend, are you in the market for a new or possibly even your first job? And are you frustrated by a lack of offers? If this is the case, one of 2 things is happening. Either the competition has better qualifications than you do, or the competition is interviewing better than you are. And guess which of these 2 you have control over? That's right, just yourself. You and yourself. You only have control over what you do in life. Now, what I find is that most nurses and NPs were never taught how to interview, nor have they researched how to do it. We need to take a number from our friends at the School of Business who know how to sell themselves. We can do it too. I help people by offering mock interviews where they get to practice their skills, and I also offer an on-demand digital course that is 19 videos totaling 3 hours and 9 PDFs. It's going to walk you through start to finish how to get ready for and deliver the performance of your career. It is going to be the most lucrative investment you could possibly make for the entirety of your career. The return on investment is phenomenal. Y'all, I've been doing mock interviews for a year. I am extremely proud to tell you that I have a 100% success rate within 2 months, and that's really only because of one outlier. Everyone has gotten a job offer, and it brings me such joy to know that people are landing their dream jobs. I'm not talking even like the second option. They're landing their dream jobs, people. There is a way to perfect this skill, and you really have to invest in it. I know you're tired of studying, but it takes a little bit of time and a little bit of preparation. You will alleviate a lot of the nerves and fears, and you'll be able to show your personality, and they will be wanting to offer you a job before you even leave the room. I can't tell you how many of my clients have told me they have heard those words. So if you're in the market for some help, please go check out my website at breemp.com to either schedule a mock interview or look into the digital course if that's right for you. Thanks for listening, and thanks so much for watching my videos.
Problem number 3, including too much of the wrong stuff or fluff, aka fluff. This is probably the most commonest problem that I see. People include a bunch of information under each work experience that is not helpful at all. Okay, so an example of this is going to be if you are an RN and you have worked as an RN and you are putting, you have had, let's say you've had 4 jobs as an RN, and one of them you were staff nurse, one of them you were charge nurse, one of them you were a float pool nurse. Under each one, you're including redundant information. It's the same bullet points under each one. So it may say something like examined patient, administered medications, developed care plans, help perform ADLs. And it says that under every single one, and that's taking up 4 bullet points or something. How is that helpful to me? Because I already know that as an RN, that's what you do. I would argue that you could say that at one point in time because you're kind of hitting those buzzwords that will help you get past ATS, but they don't need to be under every single one. You could summarize it somehow by saying, in the first one, standard nursing care involving blah, blah, blah. And then under each subsequent one, just saying standard nursing care plus blah. An example for NPs might be the standard assess, diagnose, and treat. So every single work experience that you have as an NP or even clinical rotation is going to say assess, diagnose, treat, assess, diagnose, treat, assess, diagnose, treat. Oh my gosh, it's so redundant, and it's not helpful for me to see you in what makes you unique. What makes you special? How are you different than the other candidates? Because that's what all NPs do, and we know that. You can say that one time, but don't repeat it over and over and over again. It's taking up too much valuable real estate. Segueing into number 4, which is not including enough of the right stuff. So instead of that redundant information, non-helpful information, you want to include relevant stuff, the exact buzzwords that are needed to help you get past ATS and to show me how you are unique and how you best fit this particular job. So let me break it down for you. So if you're an RN and you're giving me a work history and you want to highlight what you did in each role, you're going to give me maybe 2 or 3 bullet points. You're going to tell me under each job how long you were there for, what the specialty was, and the top, 3, 4, 5 diagnoses, like the type of unit that you were working in. So, I was a CVICU nurse from these years, competent in recovering the post-op valve, cabbage, whatever other type of surgeries y'all typically do, and or specific skills that you are good at. That's what makes you unique, right? Are you good at managing pacer wires, pulling chest tubes, reading values off of the PA catheter? Those make you very, very valuable. Those are kind of like procedures. You wouldn't put standard procedures under an RN thing, but those are like unique management and procedure things that not all nurses have. So that helps me see you for what you are good at. An example of how this would apply for an NP is going to be under each work experience or clinical rotation. And this is key, y'all. As an NP, if you have no experience, you're a new grad NP, I want to see a lot of information under your clinical rotations, because this is going to tell me how much onboarding I need to do for you. This is going to tell me how long I need to get you up and running. So each rotation, you're going to have the name of your preceptor, how many hours you spent there, the average census of patients that you were seeing by the end of your rotation there, um, any particular procedures that you gained while you were there, and the top diagnoses of this area. So, say you are, we'll use that CVICU picture. So, say you're working for a cardiothoracic surgery team, you're going to tell me what kind of role you were in. Were you in the OR primarily? Were you adept at harvesting vein? Did you spend time in the OR? Or were you mostly pre-oping and post-oping these patients? You're going to say that, right? That tells me a lot of information about what you already know and what we need to do to train you, what it is that you want to do. It tells me all of that kind of information. So, adept at managing pre and post-op cabbages, valves, complex, whatever the top 5 or 6 diagnoses of the patients that your team is seeing, that's what you want to include. I don't want to hear things about like used effective communication to educate patients. Okay, whatever. Okay, side note on these last 2 things I talked about, number 3 and number 4, including the right stuff, excluding the wrong stuff. If there are really key points, like say you worked as a job as an RN where you earned a DAISY award, that's very special and very unique. Absolutely include that. What you could consider is that, say you've had a lot of jobs as an RN, you have a couple of sentences or a short paragraph somewhere at the end of all of that saying, during my time as an RN, I received this award, I achieved this, I did this. And it doesn't have to be specific to where you were at. It just gives me an overall picture of what a great leader you were, what a well-recognized coworker you were as an RN. But I don't need to know all the specific details because it's important. Nursing experience is very, very important for NP jobs. What's most important is that I see you as an NP. So highlight more of your NP stuff, and let them ask you questions in the interview if they want to know about your RN background. The 5th most common mistake that I see is no procedures. Now, if you've not been able to do any procedures, that's okay. I had very few procedures to put on my resume. I think I did like basically 1.5 central lines. I did one successfully. I attempted another one and was not able to get it. That was about it. I observed a lot of intubations. I did not put in any art lines. I did not do many procedures in the rotations that I did. But and so I put the ones that I did on there. What I would do in that instance is to say observed a lot of this. If you rotated with a pulmonology group and you saw a lot of chest tubes put in, you could say observed X number of chest tubes placed, adept at managing chest tubes, because procedures in and of themselves are not super stressful. When a place is looking at hiring a new nurse practitioner in particular, I think procedures are somewhat important, but that's not the focus of it, right? Because procedures can be taught. Think about when you were a new grad RN, they didn't necessarily ask you if you were adept at putting in IVs. They just assumed they were going to be teaching you how to do it. If you had a ton of experience, like you had a heavy rotation through ER and you got a ton of time doing it, that's a bonus. That's great. But it's not necessarily an excluding factor. I think that candidates think that this carries a lot more weight than it actually does. Now, the counter argument to this would be the job posting that says they are looking for an experienced person only. If you're applying for a job and they expect you to come in experienced or say this is a locums job, that's a different story. They're going to expect you to have procedures and or procedure logs going with it. But as a new grad, not so much. We just anticipate that we're going to have to teach you, and we would prefer to teach you because we can teach you the way that we do it and the way that we prefer it done. So it's really not as bad of a thing as you think it is. Sometimes procedures are things that just include management, right? Adept at managing balloon pumps, adept at managing ECMO. This is part of it. Placing the line is only a small piece of the procedure. Managing it is almost even more important. So don't forget to include that information. The last mistake, and believe it or not, I see this, is that no references or not enough references. I think that the standard feedback that most people get is include 3 references, and they may include them on the side or at the end. You want the best, most applicable, most recent references. So yes, it's great that you've given me, 5 RN supervisor references. However, I want to hear from your clinical instructors. I want to hear from your academic instructor. I want to hear from someone who's worked with you or seen you as an NP if you're applying for NP job, and same for RN. Any more references that you have that relates to the job for which you are applying helps me to see you better in that role, and also makes me think, oh my gosh, she's listed 7 references from every single rotation, which means that she feels confident that she performed pretty well. I'm not going to call all 7 of those people. HR, I don't think will either. I don't work for an HR department, so some of that is a weed out part that they do before they even get to us. But again, to me, as the person interviewing you and ultimately kind of helping to make the hiring decisions, if I see a bunch of references listed, I think this is a person who's very confident. So don't forget to include your references, particularly for your clinical rotations. And even better, watch the video where I interviewed, I think it's called Interview with a New Grad NP, where I interviewed Nikki, who is a brand new nurse practitioner, and some of the feedback that she had about how she got her first job. She got references from every single preceptor she rotated with. So when she was done with the rotation, immediately while it was still fresh on her mind, she asked if they would mind being a reference for her. She got their contact information and she said, would you mind writing a couple sentences or even a reference for me? And had it done long before it was even needed, while it was fresh on their mind, and they still feel kind of like obliged to help you out. And then what's great about that is you can take a sentence or two from that that maybe highlights things. Like Nikki is a fabulous learner. She will make a very good nurse practitioner. You could take those 2 sentences and put it in a calling card, as I call it. I made a video on that too. I'll put a link up in here somewhere about how to acquire a job as a highlight on your calling card. This reviews, y'all, reviews are what sell people. So the more reviews or feedback you can get, especially as you go along, the better for you. The last thing I want to talk about is how to write your resume. And this is not necessarily a mistake. Most of the resumes that I see are very professional looking, but if you are struggling to write your resume, I highly advise you look into hiring someone to help you do it, either to write it for you, to teach you how to do it, or to send you like templates so that you can fill in and do your own. Now, there are a lot of people out there who do resume writing. I advise you to pick someone within your field. There are a lot of RN resume writers. There is a nurse practitioner resume writer. I interviewed Amanda Gardnieri. I'll include a link up here somewhere, and you can go and watch that video. She's the person that I recommend. My resume is written through her templates and through her program. I think it's highly valuable. It's already formatted for you. You just plug in your information. It makes it much more seamless, and it's very aesthetically pleasing for those of us very visual people. When I see a very well organized and visually pleasing resume, I instantly think better of a person. That's a personal preference. It's not always going to be the case, but hers are beautiful. You can pick different fonts, so they're great for that. The other really, really great thing about her particular programs is that she has different tiers of packages. She has like a whole course where she will walk you through writing your own resume. I think it's called Resume Writer Pro. I think. Don't quote me to that. I'll put a link in the description below, which is great. I have used her templates, and within most of her programs, not only is the template great, but what's really, really great are those buzzwords I was talking about earlier that will help you link the skills that you're looking for the specific job you're looking for. She has a bullet bank of those. So like for an NP example, there are 30 different specialties: GI NP, family nurse practitioner, pediatric nurse practitioner, subspecialties, ICU. And she's taken words that others have used that she's seen throughout her years and that really help highlight the most ideal candidate that are specific to that field, and giving you a list of like 10 different buzzwords to put in there. And that is going to really help. Using those will really help you to get past that ATS, and also kind of make you look like a more ideal candidate when you're going into your interview, and give you things to like focus on in your interview responses. And I do this a lot in the people that I'm talking about interview strategy with. Like, if I have someone coming in that wants to do a specific field, we talk about investigating what it is that people who work in that role are looking for and value. And those are the words that you put in your interview. So if you're looking for help with your resume, I highly recommend Amanda Gardnieri of the Resume RX. I have a link I'll put around here to help you out if you're looking for that. I am an affiliate. I'm an only affiliate of she's really the only person I'm an affiliate of, because I only affiliate with people and products that I believe in. That's all that I recommend. So if you want to go with her, you can use the code SAVE20 and get 20% off. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. I use her stuff as well. So you don't have to use that, but use the tips. Believe it or not, a lot more goes into screening your resume than you think. So I hope this helps. Good luck. I know it's rough out there trying to find a job, everybody. Hang in there. The right thing will come along when it is the right time for you. Have a good week, y'all.